Thank you for choosing this training video as part of your quest for more knowledge and expertise in combating human trafficking. I am Professor Rosa Patti. Our Human Trafficking Academy has designed these training videos to benefit law enforcement, legal professionals, educators, healthcare professionals, religious organizations, and the community at large. The experts featured in them dig deeper into the efforts made by the government, the public sector, and civil society working together in partnership to raise awareness about trafficking in human beings, to assess and address the root causes that make people vulnerable, to understand the intricate structure of the crime and the modus operandi of its perpetrators, to curb the demand of this billions of dollars illicit industry, to identify, rescue, and protect the victims and their families, and above all, to rehabilitate our society and steer it towards a more ethical and compassionate coexistence. Trafficking in human beings, modern-day slavery, is the worst affront to the dignity of the human person. It's an infamy that poisons the human society. But it does not have to accompany us perpetually. We can and should put an end to it. This is our lifetime trial, and we are never tried beyond our strengths. And now I invite you to hear from those who are at the forefront of eradicating this human-by-human exploitation and have made combating trafficking their life's most noble cause.
Human trafficking is a crime under federal law and state law. It is the use of force, fraud, coercion, psychological manipulation to have the victim engage in either labor trafficking and or sex trafficking services for monetary gain. The law treats and views the victim of a sexual crime and or prostitution or human trafficking as a victim rather than that of a criminal.
Under the Safe Harbor Act, now a child that previously could not be brought into the dependency system can be brought into the dependency system if we have some evidence that the child is sexually exploited and there's no parent, guardian, or caregiver that can adequately give the child supervision and care. Additionally, the definition of sexual abuse was changed to add the definition of sexual exploitation. The changes are important because the children can now be brought into the dependency system and receive services with court supervision. In addition to that, the changes are important because now we know that even though prostitution, which a lot of these children have been forced into, is still a crime, it has not been decriminalized. Officers now have the discretion to be able not to arrest a child and in turn those children over to the Department of Children and Families so that they can get services to try to get them out of that life.
There's not one particular sign that you can use to determine whether somebody is a victim of human trafficking. The chances are if you see somebody that's engaged in prostitution and they look young, chances are they probably are young. And if they're minors and they're engaged in prostitution, then they're victims of trafficking. Victims are often not in control of their identification, their schedules, where they're going to and coming from. You can see evidence of dominating or controlling relationships. For example, they look very nervous or hypervigilant and answering their text messages, answering the phone anytime it rings, almost fearful that if they don't answer the phone, they're going to get in trouble for that. Well, there's a lot of inconsistencies with their stories as far as who the people are that they're with, where they've been out all night. They don't have a story that goes with it that makes sense. They might have signs of physical abuse or emotional abuse as well. They don't always have access to basic needs, food, shelter. A lot of the indicators that we see revolve around signs of trauma, somebody that's very depressed or acting out, and they also have a distrust of authority. They've been oftentimes told that that authority or people that are involved with the system are not going to be there to help them, and they've experienced things that in their histories that make them not trust.
The first thing that if law enforcement understands that a victim is under the age of 18, is to, under the new law, is to contact the state agency or DCF and call the DCF hotline so that they are able to help provide those services to the victim.
When a police officer makes a call to the DCF hotline and they've encountered a child who is a victim or they suspect is a victim of commercial sexual exploitation, the hotline operator will answer the call, will field the call, and take the information from the police officer. Once that information is taken in, an intake number is given to that call, and the call is then dispatched to a child protective investigator. In Miami-Dade County, we've developed a system where that child is brought to the Juvenile Assessment Center by the police officer. At that point, the child protective investigator will go out to the Juvenile Assessment Center, which is more commonly known as the JAC, and at that location, the transfer of custody will be made from law enforcement to DCF. The JAC may not be an alternative in other regions, but here in Miami-Dade County, we have an arrangement with the JAC where that location can be a location where the transfer is made.
If the statewide abuse hotline isn't accepting a call, in Miami in particular, Christie House is, we're about to open a safe house for girls between the age of 12 and 17 years old who are victims of sex trafficking at an emergency basis. In addition to that, our program, Project Gold, wraps around the girls' comprehensive case management, mentoring, life skills therapy services, and advocacy services so that we can provide ongoing support to children who are victims of sex trafficking in Miami-Dade. Referrals to the Christie House shelter in Miami can be made by calling our hotline number, which is 1-877-GOLD-916. You can also call the National Human Trafficking Hotline number, and they will locate services for you that are closer to the area where you are.
A key component to any officer recognizing human trafficking is their education. The ability to identify what a human trafficking victim is, their ability to know the resources within their community to be able to get additional assistance, be it investigative-wise or additional services for the victim.
It's really important to approach somebody with a victim-centered mindset and to understand that they may not be committing a crime of prostitution, but rather be victimized in a trafficking situation. If you approach them with the victim-centered mindset and understand that some of the reactions that you might be getting from them are actually trauma symptoms, then you increase your chance of having them open up to you and give you more information that could identify them as victims of human trafficking.
Knowing what to do and when to do should you come in contact with a human trafficking victim is probably the most key and important part of combating human trafficking.